news all the time. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM, New York.
Good evening. It's 77 degrees at 7 o'clock. I'm Bud Mishkin. Here's what's happening. Another showdown between President Trump and a Democrat-led city and state. The president has ordered National Guard troops to head to Chicago. Protests in the streets of the city. Homeland Security says officer shot an armed woman. Diddy's attorneys say they will appeal, citing the behavior of the judge.
Young kids lost their life before they could live their life.
2 young women dead in Brooklyn. It's believed they were subway surfing. Still nothing official from Israel or Hamas today on the possible end of the war in Gaza. And there's a new old tomb being opened in Egypt, real old. Sports, the Yankees are playing the Blue Jays in Game 1 of the American League Division Series in Toronto. AccuWeather clear tonight, low of 63, mostly sunny and very warm tomorrow with a high of 83. Waste Minutes time, 7:01. Let's get you where you need to go. And to do so, Jeff Jensen.
Yeah, busy at the bridge, maybe more than one bridge. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. 30-minute ride into the upper level and the lower level of the GWB off of I-95 going into the city. About 20 at 46, about 20 minutes from Route 4. Palisades also jammed up. Outbound, only about a 15-minute ride. That's gotten pretty good. The Lincoln and Holland 30 in and no trouble getting to New Jersey. You're jammed trying to go over the RFK Bridge into Queens from the Bronx as a crash. Right as you come into Queens, blocking the right lane. And very slow taking the Gothas from New Jersey to Staten Island. The outer bridge is also slow, but definitely a better ride. Watch for some very slow traffic. You travel in Queens. You have it on the BQE right as you come down near the LIE going westbound, pretty busy down toward the Williamsburg. More slow traffic approaching Tillery Street down toward Atlantic Avenue. The other way around, you're busy from Hamilton Avenue up to Atlantic Avenue. Slow in Queens both ways on the Van Wyck between Atlantic Avenue and the Bell Parkway. And here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three, bunching up on the Southern State westbound, Meadowbrook to Eagle Avenue. Northern State, there's some slowdowns going westbound. Looks like there might be an accident by Glen Cove Road. Then more heavy traffic from Willis Avenue to the city line. The LIE stop and go from Glen Cove Road to the city line. Jeff Jensen, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
The Trump administration's deployment of National Guard troops in American cities has a new chapter, Chicago. Governor J.B. Pritzker says the president's Department of War gave him an ultimatum this morning. Call up your troops or we will. Pritzker calls it absolutely outrageous and un-American. Protesters have gathered near Chicago's Brighton Park after Homeland Security says officers shot an armed woman.
You have this individual, this woman, who was a part of a intelligence bulletin. She was someone that was known to authorities as a potential person of violence. They're saying that she was a part of this group of what appears to be an organized action. These 10 cars roughly ramming agents, which ultimately resulted in an authority-involved shooting here.
It's correspondent Alex Pachet. Murder charges against a man accused of fatally stabbing his mother-in-law and injuring his teenage brother-in-law. 27-year-old Weisheng Chen faces numerous charges. He's accused of stabbing his 50-year-old mother-in-law on Thursday at the multifamily home in Flushing and then stabbing his brother-in-law. The mother-in-law later died at the hospital. Teenager is in stable condition. The suspect allegedly set the back room on fire and then slashed his wrists. He was taken into custody in critical condition. Attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs say they will appeal their client's sentencing by calling into question the behavior of the judge. Combs was sentenced to more than 4 years in prison. Attorney Mark Agnifilo after the judge's sentencing.
The jury's verdict was resoundingly clear. There was no sex trafficking. There was no racketeering. Everything was consensual. Everything was adult, which is why he was convicted only of the prostitution offense. What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror, one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury's verdict.
Diddy was sentenced for his conviction on 2 prostitution-related offenses. Another fatal case of subway surfing in New York, and 2 young girls in Brooklyn are dead.
They lost their lives before they could live it. The bodies of 2 teenage girls found on top of a J train after 3 Saturday morning. Durant says, as a father, this hurts to hear.
It saddens me, It saddens me very, very, very much so. Like I said, I got 2 teenagers myself and an infant, so it's like, wow.
Subway surfing, a disturbing trend that's leaving teens seriously injured or dead. Durant, trying to make sense of it all, says the influence of social media just isn't worth it.
You never know what goes on in people's lives, or what they deal with, or what's going on in their household. Where's the parents, guidance. Where were the parents? You know what I mean?
Amanda Alexander, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in Williamsburg.
A settlement between the New York State Housing Agency and the LaFrac organization. The organization will pay $3.1 million in penalties to refund rent-stabilized tenants. State officials say those tenants were forced to pay water fees on top of their rent. That was a violation of state housing law. The reimbursement will come in the form of future rent credits and includes 9% interest. We've reached out to the organization for comment. There's nothing new officially from Israel or Hamas today, but Prime Minister Netanyahu says he hopes the hostages will be released, in his words, in the coming days.
In a video statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel is on the brink of a very big achievement, adding that it's still not final. I hope that in the next few days I will be able to announce that all of the hostages have been returned in one tranche while the Israeli army remains deep in Gaza, Netanyahu said. He spoke after Israel stopped all offensive actions in Gaza and Hamas accepted the 20-point Trump plan with reservations.
Correspondent Linda Gradstein in Jerusalem. Meanwhile, hospitals in Gaza report that 20 people in Gaza were killed by Israeli airstrikes between midnight and 12:45 p.m. local time. President Trump called on Israel to stop the bombing. ABC News is reporting that FBI Director Kash Patel fired a new agent trainee at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. The reason? The trainee displayed a pride flag at his previous work area. ABC News reports this is according to several sources and a copy of a letter from Patel. The trainee recently went into training to become an agent after working at the FBI's Los Angeles field office for more than a decade in a non-agent capacity. In the letter, Patel accused the trainee of showing, quote, poor judgment with an inappropriate display of political signage in your work area. No official comment from the FBI. This comes a week after the FBI fired agents who kneeled during the 2020 civil rights protests over the killing of George Floyd. We're getting more of an indication of how the FBI might carry out an arrest of the former FBI Director, James Comey.
FBI leaders discussed hauling indicted former Director James Comey into court next week rather than having him show up on his own. That's what three sources familiar with the matter told CBS News. One source said leadership asked for large, beefy agents to arrest Comey in full kit, including Kevlar vests and clothing emblazoned with the FBI logo. He's due for arraignment next Thursday under an indictment for allegedly lying to Congress, following a public order from President Trump to the Justice Department to make that happen.
It's correspondent Michael Toscano. Being an Uber or Lyft driver in California may soon be a union job. Governor Newsom has signed a measure that allows more than 800,000 drivers to join a union and bargain collectively for wages and benefits. California becomes the second state where Uber and Lyft drivers can unionize as independent contractors. Massachusetts passed a similar measure in November, and Illinois and Minnesota are considering it. Quick check of AccuWeather. Really nice night tonight. We have 77 degrees going down to a low of 63 overnight with clear conditions. Tomorrow mostly sunny, very warm, and a high of 83. Traffic in the full AccuWeather forecast coming up in about 3 minutes. 6 more people in police custody after the Yom Kippur attack on a synagogue in Manchester, England.
Police are questioning 6 people in connection with the deadly synagogue attack in Manchester, England. Jihad al-Shami was shot and killed by police outside the Heaton Park Congregation Synagogue after he rammed a car into pedestrians and attacked them with a knife. 2 people were killed. Detectives say al-Shami, a British citizen of Syrian origin who lived in Manchester, may have been influenced by extreme Islamist ideology. They are still trying to determine if he acted alone. 3 men and 3 women were arrested on suspicion of the commission, preparation, and instigation of acts of terrorism. The court granted police 5 more days to hold them. I'm Ed Donahue.
The opening of a famed tomb in Egypt after 2 decades of renovation. That story coming up. Wins News Time, 7-Eleven. Let's get you where you need to go. Jeff Jensen.
You'll need 30 minutes in a bunch of spots. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. About a 30-minute ride across the GWB, both to New York. They're coming up high 95 to the upper and the lower level. That's the delay of 95. 46, about 25 minutes there. Route 4 is the best approach to the bridge Palisades Parkway also tied up. Outbound about 15 to 20. Inbound Lincoln Holland about 30. Outbound not bad. Your jam is going to take about 20 minutes to cross the Goethals to Staten Island. The outer bridge is better. And the Throgs Neck, Whitestone, the RFK, they're all slow going to Queens. RFK is especially busy. Just did an accident range again to Queens. I was there to trying to come off the bridge. That is all cleared and out of there. Slow traffic in Queens on the westbound side of the LIE between Queens Boulevard and Maurice Avenue. The Grand Central is a pretty decent ride. Just some slowdowns going westbound approaching the LIE. Though don't forget, no paths running between Harrison and Journal Square. For the weekend, they are running shuttle buses between Harrison and Journal Square, and between Newark Penn Station and Journal Square while the trains are out. Jeff Jensen, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
Let's get a check of the AccuWeather forecast now with meteorologist Matt Benz.
For tonight, mainly clear, low of 63 in Midtown, 50 so in many northern and western suburbs. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, another very warm day, high of 83. Mainly clear then for tomorrow night, low of 61. Monday, beautiful day, plenty of sunshine. Still quite warm for this time of the year with a high of 80 degrees. And a few more clouds return for Tuesday afternoon. Still warm, still dry during the day with a high of 80. Some showers likely into Tuesday night, cooler then for the midweek. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Matt Benz, a New York weather station, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM.
Coming up, some long-awaited news for fans of ancient Egyptian archaeology. That story's up next. The biggest tomb in Egypt's famed Valley of the Kings has reopened after a 2-decades-long renovation.
The tomb of Amenhotep III, who ruled Egypt between 1390 BC and 1350 BC, is now open for visitors in the southern city of Luxor in the famed Valley of the Kings after more than 20 years of renovation. Mohammed Ismail, Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, says the tomb was discovered in 1799 and rediscovered in 1950 by Howard Carter, the archaeologist who discovered the tomb of King Tutankhamun.
The tomb, of course, was unfortunately discovered completely empty, so it was stolen before.
The tomb has been under a Japanese-led restoration project. I'm Donna Warner.
Japan's governing body has elected a new leader, a woman. That means Japan is set to have its first ever female prime minister. Sane Takahashi became the leader of the party that has governed Japan almost uninterrupted since the end of World War II. This party election was spurred by last month's announcement by Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba that he would step down after a year in office. It's known as the Treasure Coast, and divers in southeast Florida recently found $1 million worth of gold and silver coins from a shipwreck. Some of the coins still had visible dates and mint marks. The 1715 Spanish ship was part of a fleet when it was hit by a hurricane, which wiped out 11 ships and killed around 1,000 sailors. The fleet had been transporting New World riches, as they were called back then, back to Spain at the time. A salvage company called Queen Jewels made the discovery over the summer. It's estimated that about $400 million worth of gold, silver, and jewels were lost in the storm.
How can I get dressed?
Great Dan Zanes singing about the thrift shop. Thrift stores are thriving in this time of concern about higher prices.
Radiance Clinton is part of a growing number of young people shopping at secondhand stores.
You might find exactly what you're looking for, and you might find something that you're not looking for, but you still might end up liking it.
The online consignment site ThreadUp says surveys indicate 58% of consumers sought out secondhand goods last year.
People are wearing secondhand clothes to the Oscars. People are wearing secondhand clothes to the Met Gala. And so it has become mainstream in ways that I didn't even anticipate, when we started the business.
ThreadUp CEO James Reinhardt.
Everyone, I think, is looking for a great deal. I think now more than ever.
It's correspondent Steve Kasich.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good evening. It's 74 degrees at 7:20. I'm Bud Mishkin. Here's what's happening. Another showdown between President Trump and a Democrat-led city and state. The president orders National Guard troops to Chicago. Protests in the streets of the city. Homeland Security says officers shot an armed woman. Warning today in Cranford, New Jersey for the second of two teens hit and killed in a hit-and-run last Monday. Former Jets quarterback Mark Sanchez stabbed, hospitalized, and under arrest in Indianapolis. The Treasury Department is considering minting a $1 coin featuring President Trump. And the drugstore Rite Aid is no more. Sports, Yankees lost Game 1 to Toronto in the American League Division Series in Toronto. AccuWeather, we have clear conditions, a low of 63 tonight, another warm one tomorrow with a high of 83. Wins News Time, 7:21. Let's get you where you need to go. Jeff Jensen.
Tough ride on Long Island. It's here's what we see on Long Island's Big Three. It's a crash on the westbound side of the Northern State Parkway, right around IU Willits Road. And you've got, that's exit 30, and you've got it's in the left lane. The crash is in the left lane. Heavy traffic going back on the Northern State to the Meadowbrook, but the Meadowbrook is especially busy because of this crash. So Northwood Meadowbrook jammed up trying to get up to that spot. Then more slowdowns on the on the Northern State going westbound between New Hyde Park Road and the City Line. And on the LA, you're sluggish at Glen Cove Road. Then one more time from Shelter Rock Road to the City Line. Southern State, not bad. Some slowdowns going westbound just past the Meadowbrook. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. About a half an hour ride into the upper level of the GWB and the lower of 95 and 46. The Route 4 approach is the best. Palisades also jammed up. Only 15 minutes out of the city. 30 into Lincoln and Holland. Slow at both of those crossings. Out of town only a little bit. You're jammed getting onto the Verrazano. Looks like an upper level crash. And before you get there, the Goffles is awful trying to get to Staten Island. The outer bridge is definitely a better ride. Jeff Jensen, 10-10 wins at 92.3 FM.
Chicago is the latest American city that the Trump administration has targeted for the deployment of the National Guard. And it's the latest battle between President Trump and a leading Democratic public official, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Illinois' Democratic governor says the Trump administration plans to federalize 300 members of the Illinois National Guard in a move J.B. Pritzker calls absolutely outrageous and un-American. Governor Pritzker didn't specify where the troops would be deployed, but he says the Guard received word from the Pentagon Saturday morning that the troops would be called up. Pritzker says in a statement, "This morning, the Trump administration's Department of War gave me an ultimatum. Call up your troops or we will." The move follows similar deployments in Baltimore, Memphis, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump has long threatened to send troops into Chicago, and Pritzker calls Trump's move a manufactured performance. I'm Donna Warder.
And while protesters have gathered near Chicago's Brighton Park, that is in response to a site where Homeland Security says officers shot an armed woman. A wake held today for one of the two 17-year-old girls killed in a hit-and-run crash in Cranford, New Jersey. Friends and family gathered at the Dooley Funeral Home to mourn Isabella Salas. Her funeral will take place Monday in Westfield. Funeral services were held yesterday for her friend Maria Neotis. The two had been riding e-bikes when a Jeep slammed into them Monday night. A 17-year-old from Garwood, New Jersey, faces murder charges in connections to their deaths. The suspect maintains his innocence. Former Jets quarterback Mark Sanchez was stabbed, hospitalized, and is now under arrest in Indianapolis.
NFL commentator and former quarterback Mark Sanchez is in the hospital after he was stabbed overnight in Indianapolis. Police say two adult men were involved in a physical disturbance around 12:30 a.m. and that one man suffered from apparent stab wounds. Detectives say the two knew each other and say it was not a random act of violence. Sanchez appeared on ABC and ESPN for 2 years before joining Fox Sports as a game analyst in 2021. All
right, that's a wrap.
Sanchez was in town for the Colts versus Raiders game at Lucas Oil Stadium scheduled for Sunday.
It's correspondent Matt Piper. Police say Sanchez was arrested at the hospital for battery with injury, unlawful entry of a motor vehicle, and public intoxication. The corner of 110th Street and 5th Avenue in Harlem is now known as Bill Perkins Way, following a street renaming ceremony for the former city councilman and state senator.
The people's leader, one of a kind, a moral agent. Only a fraction of ways folks here describe Bill Perkins, like public advocate Jumaane Williams.
He's a giant in Harlem. It's just an honor to be able to serve with him. I think the next step now is to make sure that we're using that power in a better way to uplift everyone.
Honorable Bill Perkins Way, the new name for this corner, highlights his life as an activist, tenant leader, and friend to the Harlem community. Even Mayor Adams.
He was a good, loving, caring, family man, father. He was a symbol of black malehood.
Amanda Alexander, 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in Harlem.
Perkins died 2 years ago. He was 74. Now Bloomberg Money Watch.
Olive Garden may be known for indulging pasta lovers.
Olive Garden's never-ending pasta bowl is back. So first
But the chain, owned by Darden Restaurants, is also catering to smaller appetites.
They're taking 7 of their popular entrees. They're making an additional lighter menu with those 7 items. They're shrinking the portion and they're lowering the price.
Bloomberg senior industry analyst Michael Halen.
And they're hoping that actually brings in greater traffic with low-income consumers.
The move also reflects changing consumer dining habits. Meanwhile, millions of Americans are using GLP-1 weight loss drugs to control their appetite. But while Darden is shrinking some portions and lowering some prices, it has also boosted prices elsewhere. And it's not the only one. Cracker Barrel raised prices nearly 5.5% in its latest quarter and expects to hike them another 4 to 5% in the coming year. But the brand, at the center of a recent controversy surrounding its logo, has also introduced lower-cost menu options. I'm Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Money Watch on 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
Good evening, I'm Bud Mishkin. Wins News Time at the Tone, 7:30.
Good evening, I am Stephanie Officer. Bronx Congressman Richie Torres wants to stop President Trump from putting his face on money. Torres is planning to introduce the Restrict Ugly Money Portraits, or Trump Act. It'll stop any president from issuing currency with their own likeness and require all money to only feature people who are deceased. This comes after the Treasury Department considers minting a new $1 coin with Trump's image.
The coins would be part of the celebration of America's 250th birthday next year. They would bear the image of Trump raising his fist moments after he was shot in the ear in Butler, Pennsylvania. In a statement, the Treasury Department says the coin would reflect the enduring spirit of our country and democracy, even in the face of immense obstacles. It's not clear how the new coins would get around the federal law that prohibits any living person from being featured on U.S. currency.
That is correspondent Michael Wallace. Wins News Time, 7:31. Let's get you where you need to go. Jeff Jensen.
Tough go trying to get to the city. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. About a 30-minute ride at the GWB off I-95 to get to the upper and the lower level. 46 less for Route 4. Even less than that. The Palisades Park was pretty jammed up. 30 in to Lincoln and the Holland. Outbound, you're okay. At the tunnels, the GWB, 10 to 15 minutes to get out of the city there. Jam to Queens at the RFK, also slow approaching the very busy approaching the Whitestone off the hot sheet. You might want to try the Throsneck. That's a bit tied up too, right where the tolls used to be. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big 3. It's a crash on the Northern State Parkway westbound in the left lane right near IU Willis Road exit 30. You're tied back onto the Meadowbrook Parkway as a result of that. You might want to just stick with the LIE instead, which is also slow though from Shelter Rock Road to the city line. More westbound lanes in the northern from Shelter Rock Road to the city line. The Southern State tied up going westbound between the Meadowbrook and Eagle Avenue. It looks like there is an eastbound accident right on exit 17, which is Hempstead Avenue, taking out at least one lane. Jeff Jensen, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
Now we get to your official 1010 Wins AccuWeather forecast with meteorologist Matt Benz.
Out to the report tonight, mainly clear with a low of 63 in Midtown, 50 zone, many northern and western suburbs. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, another warm day, high of 83 degrees. Tomorrow night, mainly clear, low of 61. Another warm day for Monday, sunshine for the most part with a high of 80 degrees. And for Tuesday, sunshine will mix in with some afternoon clouds that will not dampen temperatures, though, with a high again of 80. Showers likely to return Tuesday night into Wednesday, cooler conditions for the midweek. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Matt Benz on New York's weather station, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
A one-time drugstore giant has shuttered the last of its stores.
There used to be thousands of Rite Aids across the U.S. Now, there are none. The drugstore chain announced Friday all of its remaining locations had closed. There weren't many left. Competition from bigger chains like CVS and Walgreens, opioid-related lawsuits led to 2 bankruptcy filings, and so there were just 89 stores still operating. They've all closed, and the Rite Aid website can provide customers with their prescription and immunization histories. Brian Clark, ABC News.
At one point, Rite Aid had nearly 5,000 stores. New research has some bad news about long COVID. A new study says kids are twice as likely to develop long COVID after their second coronavirus infection. A study from Chicago's Children's Hospital says kids and teens are much more likely to experience blood clots, damaged kidneys, and abnormal heartbeats after getting COVID a second time. People under age 21 are urged to stay up to date on their vaccines and boosters. Researchers surveyed nearly 500,000 people under age 21 for the study, which was published last Tuesday in Lancet Infectious Diseases. Drivers on the West Coast should expect some sticker shock at the pump after a fire broke out at an oil refinery near LA last week.
Experts are expecting a price increase in gas.
One analyst saying West Coast drivers could see a 5 to 15 cent jump in the coming days. Now, as for the extent of that price hike, experts say it will depend on the habits of California drivers. If there's a run on gas, prices will go up rapidly just because of natural supply and demand. And let's not forget, California already has the highest gas prices in the nation. The average right now is $4.63 a gallon.
Correspondent Jacqueline Lee. The FBI is cutting ties with two organizations that for decades have tracked domestic extremism and racial and religious bias.
FBI Director Kash Patel says the Bureau is ending ties with the Southern Poverty Law Center, saying it has become a partisan smear machine, criticizing it for its use of a hate map that documents alleged anti-government and hate groups. Conservative figures have criticized the SPLC over its description of Turning Point USA, the organization Charlie Kirk led. Patel also ending ties with the Anti-Defamation League, which fights anti-Semitism, accusing that group of spying on Americans. Both organizations say they'll continue their missions.
Chuck Sievertson with that report. Wins News Time 736. 1010 Wins Entertainment News next. More from the world of Taylor Swift. 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM, moving at the speed of New Yorkers.
The News Watch never stops. This is 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good evening, 74 degrees, 740 on your Saturday, October 4th. I am Stephanie Officer. Here's what's happening. The ICE takeover in Chicago has led to at least one federal agent-involved shooting. A Queens teen has been sentenced after a carjacking that led to the owner's death. Tomorrow at the Tour de Bronx, as thousands gear up for the miles-long bike ride. Federal judge finds the Department of Justice's prosecution of Kilmar Abrego Garcia on human smuggling charges may be an illegal retaliation. It's a happy ending on Long Island for a mischievous kitten caught up in a car's undercarriage. Sports, the Yanks drop game 1 of the ALDS in Toronto in the best-of-5 series. It is 74 degrees, partly cloudy in Midtown. It's News Time 741. Let's get you where you need to go. Jeff Jensen.
Jammed in Westchester County. Really heavy traffic here on the southbound side of the New England Thruway. It's an accident on I-95 as you go south, right near exit 15 in New Rochelle. 2 of the 3 lanes are knocked out. Now, if you pick the Hutch over I-95, you're okay right there in New Rochelle, but then you get really busy south of the cross county from Pelham right on down into the Bronx. So 95 is actually better past the accident scene. Here's what you need to know about the bridges in town. 30 in from I-95 and 46 to get to the GWB. The Route 4 approach is better. Palisades also tied up 15 minutes out. Lincoln and Holland, about a half an hour into the city. Holland might even be a little bit more. You're jammed to Brooklyn into Brooklyn Bridge. Very slow going to Staten Island using the goggles. It's easing a bit, but the outer bridge is also quite tied up from Route 35 right over to the bridge. And the Verrazano looks like there's an accident at the foot of the bridge. Suddenly we're really busy from the Staten Island Expressway trying to get to the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Here's what we see on Long Island's Big 3, a crash on the, that Northern State Parkway accident's done. There's slow traffic on the Southern State both ways between Meadowbrook and Hempstead Avenue, and the LA and Northern both crowded going westbound from Willis Avenue to the city line. Jeff Jensen, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
Federal agents shot a protester in Chicago today. It happened on the city's southwest side. There are reports the situation escalated when a convoy of cars blocked the agents, tried to ram into authorities on the scene, and allegedly one driver, a woman, tried running them over. That's when we're told shots were fired.
This happened in the Brighton Park neighborhood. They said the person that they shot was a woman. She was someone that was known to CBP. She had been in a bulletin, and they were aware of postings that she had made online urging folks in that neighborhood to attack agents.
That's correspondent Alex Prochet. A Queens teen has been sentenced to 18 years in prison for stealing a car, then causing a crash that landed its owner, who was hanging onto the roof, into a coma for 11 months, which led to his death. The Queens DA says Friday's sentence comes more than 2 years after 19-year-old Mahindra Hansaraj stole a 2006 Lexus RX belonging to 29-year-old Torrey Thompson of Richmond Hill. Thompson jumped onto the roof of his car as it was being stolen shortly before 10 p.m. on February 20th, 2023. Hansaraj then sped through a red light on Leverage Boulevard, crashed into a fire hydrant in South Ozone Park. That's what the DA says. Thompson suffered a traumatic brain injury, spent 11 months in a coma before dying in January 2024. Hansaraj pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter last month. He will also face 5 years of post-release supervision following that 18-year sentence. Well, tomorrow brings the 31st annual Tour de Bronx, and with it, a bunch of street closures. At least 4,000 bike riders are expected to participate. It's the state's largest free cycling event. You can choose from a family-friendly 10-mile route, 20